Hello and welcome to this Young Turks edition. I'm Shereen Bhan. We're coming to you from Silicon Valley. We're back here to mark our 21st milestone in conversation with someone who's been part of the Young Turks family and the Young Turks community for a while now. Anand, always good to have you back on the program. Thanks very much for joining us on the show.
Thank you, Shereen. Thanks for giving me the opportunity.
But I want to talk about the San Francisco Unicorns with you, Anand, and that is the T-shirt that you're currently wearing, not the Rocketship T-shirt. And you're bringing cricket. You're part of the group that's bringing cricket finally to the US in July.
That's right. It's super exciting. As you know, growing up in India.
New startup.
Yeah, it's Venki's and my latest startup, new startup. It's sort of very interesting. I would never have thought we'd have this opportunity. As you know, growing up in India, we're all huge cricket fans, right? And I was a huge cricket fan growing up in India, going to school in India. And then when I came to the US to study in '93 to go to Stanford, fortunately, that was also the first year of the World Wide Web, and the internet just took off, and that's why I was able to keep in touch with cricket.
Right.
Even though I moved from India to here, it worked out that I was able to keep in touch through the web, right? And because of that, I was able to follow all the games and so on. But little did I imagine during those years that I would have the opportunity to bring cricket
20 years on.
to bring cricket to the US. And I think it's sort of in a theoretical sense, this is an amazing opportunity, right? Because cricket is the second most popular sport in the world, and the second only to football, soccer. And America is the largest sports market in the world, with a lot of passionate cricket fans here. So it's an amazing opportunity, and I think it's the right time. And the thing that enables it, frankly, is 2020, right? Until a few years ago, cricket was just too long a sport to bring to the US market. But now 2020 is packaged that down to a 3-hour format with non-stop excitement throughout the game, right? The feats of athleticism as catches get taken on the boundary, right? These are amazing moments of athleticism, and I think that's the right package to bring the sport to the US. I'm super excited.
Well, speaking about bringing this package to the US, I mean, it's quite a motley bunch of you working together to actually make this a reality. You, Venki, of course, with the San Francisco Unicorns, Satya Nadella as well, and a whole bunch of other folks from the diaspora making this happen.
That's right. I mean, look, I think this just is a testament to the popularity of cricket among the diaspora, the Indian diaspora. And it's an honor that Satya Nadella is one of the co-owners of the Seattle team, as you mentioned, and Shantanu Narayan, the Adobe CEO, is one of the co-owners of the San Francisco Unicorns, along with Venki and myself. And we have some amazing people owning the teams in the other territories as well. And it's great to have the IPL teams involved as well, right? For example, the Kolkata Knight Riders own the LA Knight Riders. And the Chennai Super Kings are the majority investors in the Texas Super Kings, where the minority investors, also include Ross Perot Jr., right? So and Anurag Jain, his partner. So it's an amazing group there as well.
And the Mumbai Indians are in on it as well.
That's right. And the Mumbai Indians own the New York team. So it's MI New York. And then we have the Washington Freedom, which is owned by a prominent businessman from the Washington, D.C. area, Sanjay Govil. So it's an amazing group that's coming together to bring this sport. And the first season starts in July, so we are 3 weeks away from the start of the season.
But conflicted because you've got the Chennai Super Kings playing here as well. You're a big fan of CSK, but now you're an owner of the San Francisco Unicorns.
Totally, I'm a fanboy, right? In the IPL, I totally support CSK, right? My heart bleeds yellow when I'm watching the IPL. And I was actually, courtesy of the Chennai Super Kings, I went and watched a training camp in Chennai as well, right? So it's amazing, and I'm a huge fan of MS Dhoni as well. So I'm going to be an IPL CSK supporter in the IPL, but unfortunately in the Major League Cricket, the US edition, I have to support the San Francisco Unicorns.
Yes, of course. But let's talk about the economics of it, because as you said, this is your latest startup now. So you are obviously not just looking at passion, but you're also looking at a return on investments eventually. Given what the IPL has been able to do back home in India, I mean, every year just record numbers being piled on. What's the opportunity that you see here?
Right. So as I said, it's the second largest sporting market in the world. And what's happened over the last 20, 25 years, as you're well aware, is that many people from cricket-loving countries have come and settled in the U.S. Right. So now there's a huge number of cricket lovers in the U.S. from the Indian subcontinent, but also from England, from Australia, from the Caribbean, and so on. And those numbers have been growing. And those people, many of those people from those communities are super passionate about cricket and cannot get enough of it. So I have some stats from Willow TV, which is the streaming network that owns the right to worldwide cricket for many games, including the IPL, and sort of broadcast them in the US. And according to their statistics, more minutes of cricket are consumed in the US than minutes of Major League Soccer, which is,
That's interesting.
Yeah, right. So and Major League Soccer is an established league in the US. So that just shows you the potential.
Speaking of the talent, you've managed to get some celebrity names on board as well. Shane Watson, part of the team.
That's right. I'm so very, very excited. Shane Watson, to have Shane Watson as a coach, he's amazing, and he has a very interesting take on high performance culture, and how a lot of high performance comes from the mind as opposed to anything else. And he has a deep philosophy on that he brings to the team. So it's amazing to have him. And a lot of as you know, look, I'm very passionate about cricket, but I've never run a cricket team in my life. Right? I wouldn't know how to do that. So what we did is that we did a strategic partnership with Cricket Victoria, which is the Cricket Association of Melbourne in Australia. And of course, they have deep expertise in cricket with two Big Bash teams and the state team and so on. And they have been super helpful to us in helping us find Shane Watson, also helping us draft some of our superstars, including Aaron Finch, the World Cup winning T20 captain, Marcus Stoinis, who just had an amazing IPL, Matthew Wade, who was also a World Cup winning T20 cricketer.
Let's now talk about what's happening with the startup ecosystem here and in India. The big buzz at this point in time, and the conversations that I'm having here are all about AI. Everyone wants to get onto the AI bus if they're not on it already.
Right.
How are you reading what's going on there?
This year was definitely an inflection point in the development of AI, which started with ChatGPT. So it's sort of been building for the last few years, but this year was when we really saw the inflection point. So I think there's definitely been something new and something that has changed in the world of AI that has happened this year. There's no doubt about that. So Silicon Valley has been waiting for the next foundation technology since mobile to really change things, and AI is seen as that. So there really is a gold rush mentality, which makes a lot of sense. Now, we, as you know, at Rocketship, we are a data-driven venture capital firm.
What's the algorithm telling you?
Exactly. So we built data on millions and millions of startups all over the world, and we built machine learning models ourselves to try to find interesting companies. And so we've been looking at what the models have been telling us. And so basically, these AI companies fall into two or three different buckets. The first bucket is the companies that are developing foundation models, like OpenAI, like Google, like Facebook, Meta. These companies are developing these foundation models, and developing these foundation models, which is where, in fact, a lot of the hard work is, and where the breakthrough has recently happened. That is something that requires a large amounts of capital, invested, because it requires huge amounts of GPUs and processing power and so on, and that's outside the reach of most startups. Right? So it can be done at the scale of a Google or a Meta or an OpenAI that raise billions of dollars, but not by a startup. Or it can be done by a nation state, right? Like a China or an India, but it cannot be done by a startup. So I think those are going to be super exciting, but those spaces, I think, are going to be owned by incumbents. Now, the second space is the tooling that's necessary for companies to adopt these new technologies, and there we are seeing some interesting companies adopting, in the tooling space that we are looking into. But the third space, which is to me the most exciting space, is companies that use these new technologies to transform huge industries in huge economies, right? So, for example, if you can transform agriculture in India using AI, that would be amazing, right? I think that's the real potential. I see these things like AI, potentially they can compete with humans, but I think in the long run, humans and AI have to partner with each other to go to the next level. I sort of feel that these fears of AI going to replace us, I think they're a little bit overblown from the way I see it. AI is just a very smart tool. We have adopted other smart tools to make progress, and AI is yet another tool that we have to adopt in order to make progress.
You're talking about this convergence. It's a happy convergence in your mind between AI and humans.
Right.
But the conversation now has shifted from it is going to enhance productivity, it is going to enhance efficiency and so on and so forth, to displacement and now extinction as well. Where do you come in on that?
Well, I guess it depends on whether you're a fan of the Terminator movies, right? I don't. Skynet, which is the Terminator thing. I mean, people are worried about that the AI coming and taking over the world, and I think it's. I wouldn't say it's an impossible thing if you allow the AI to give it access to weapon systems and things of this nature, it might happen. So I think we have to be careful and build in safeguards, and there will be government regulation as well to prevent, for example, access of AI to weapons of mass destruction, things of this nature. So we have to be careful and cognizant of those scenarios. But at the same time, I think we also have to enable entrepreneurs and startups to experiment with AI very broadly to see where you can transform the world. I mean, at some level, if you think about any new technology, right? There are two ways you can do new things. You can either take a new technology and try to fit it into the world and try to improve it, or you can try to take the new technology and completely reinvent things around it. And it's always this latter, reinventing things around the new technology, that really leads to true progress and innovation. By the way, honestly, I think this is also the big opportunity for India, right? India is an enviable position where we don't have as big a legacy in terms of legacy technology debt as some of the developed world, including the US, and we have a very young population. India has a super young population that's eager to embrace and adopt new technologies, and sort of and they're very happy to transform the world using the new technology. The government is entirely behind that as well, with the India stack, with the payments and so on. India has been sort of using technology to redefine things as opposed to trying to retrofit technology into existing processes. And I think that's a big opportunity for a country like India right now. It can be India's decade, as opposed to just India's decade, because if India is very thoughtful and allows entrepreneurs to experiment using AI to completely redefine industries, I think it's going to be transformative.
You've got, what, about 18 odd investments in India at this point in time, a couple of unicorns as well. You've got, what, about 18 odd investments in India at this point in time, a couple of unicorns as well. What is the data telling you? What are the You've got, what, about 18 odd investments in India at this point in time, a couple of unicorns as well. What is the data telling you? What are the bets that you're likely to make? And I believe a new fund as well on the anvil?
That's right. Well, we launched Rocketship Fund 3, I think a few months ago. In terms of India, we continue to be super bullish and excited about India. Every big space and country goes through a little bit of ups and downs. India as a country is doing incredibly well. The Indian economy is on a road. It's one of the few bright spots in the world right now. The Indian technology space is exciting as well. There's a little bit of consolidation that's happening in the space, which happens periodically, and it's healthy for the ecosystem. But at the same time, I'm really, really bullish about Indian entrepreneurs who can adopt AI and use it to digitally transform huge swaths of Indian industry, and we are looking for companies like that all the time, right?
So which are the spaces that you think that this has the potential to have that kind of transformative impact? So
finance is obviously one, and we had the first generation of fintechs in India. I think we can have a second generation that's more AI driven, more technology driven, that can be super interesting. Food is another. I just mentioned about the food tech company. Agriculture is, I think, is a space that I think can really be transformed by the adoption of AI, and education, which has traditionally been a good a great vertical in India. I think that we will see the next generation of companies in that space.
When we were last speaking in 2016, you were talking about irrational exuberance and what that had done to valuations and how easy money had kept zombie companies afloat. Are you now starting to see, are we in the middle of the correction? Are we heading towards the end of the correction? How do you see things?
No, I think we're very much in the middle of the correction right now. I think basically what happened is a lot of companies, when the easy money was around, raised large amounts of funding. So the companies that did not raise large amounts of funding went out of business quickly. The companies that raised large amounts of funding have long runways. And so they have not gone out of business. They may have done some layoffs, but they still have really long runways. But there are still many companies among those whose business has not really taken off, even though they have long runways and they've raised large amounts of capital. And this is true in the US and it's true in India, right? It's true everywhere. So we have a bunch of companies that have a lot of capital but are in no danger of going out of business right now because they really have long runways, and that is these are the zombie companies that we spoke about last time. We have the zombies back again now that are hanging around, and I think it'll take a couple of years for those zombies to get washed out.
What we saw happen was also that people were willing to put a lot of money behind what was quote-unquote a concept without necessarily having a strong business model in play. And now the expectation is, where is the business model? Where is profitability? I mean, this, even on the investor part, the pendulum swings, doesn't it?
It always does, and it always overcorrects. I think I worry that we might also overcorrect and go too far in the other extreme, because when you have a startup, you very often you have to bet on a dream. Right? And if you sort of impose a business model and profitability constraints right at the beginning, you're going to miss many exciting companies just because they don't have that. I mean, very often there is a startups very often have this J curve phenomenon where they lose money initially for a lot of time, and then they hockey stick up. That's so if you sort of focus too far on the right hand side and say right from day one you have to be a profitable company, you're going to miss companies with a steeper J curve, which ultimately might end up being the more important and transformative companies.
How are you reading what's happening as far as the legacy tech companies are concerned? As one of the initial investors into companies like Facebook, etc., how do you read what's going on at a company like Meta, what's now happening at Twitter with Musk coming in, what's happening with AI and Google? Where do you see the incumbents over the next few years?
I think to be honest, this is a great time to be an incumbent. because of AI and the new developments around AI. It was a bad time for incumbents for the last couple of years because there was a lot of regulation coming at them. There was a lot of regulatory pressure on them, which will continue to be the case. There is a lot of regulatory pressure there will be a lot of regulatory pressure on incumbents going forward. But the emergence of large language models and the adoption of those and the more importance of those is going to be actually beneficial to incumbents because, as I said, developing these models and being a player in that space requires a lot of capital. And one thing that incumbents have is a lot of capital and a lot of expertise, right? So because of that, it's going to lock in the advantages of incumbents to some extent over the next few years. There have been hearings in Congress with Sam Altman, the OpenAI CEO, going and testifying, saying maybe the government should regulate AI. Now, that's an interesting thing to think about. Clearly, you need to some safeguards like provide, weapon systems and so on that you don't want AI to be able to access. But at the same time, regulating too early always has the danger of benefiting the incumbents more because regulation always favors incumbents because regulation imposes costs.
So you think that's what this whole business of writing letters or to Congress saying that come in and regulate, you think this is a way of self-protection?
Absolutely. I mean, so think about it, right? I mean, there is this old, parable that says, who benefits, from prohibition? The people who, benefit most from prohibition are the bootleggers at some level, right? So it's because their business kind of goes up. So at some level, whenever there is regulation, the government is going to turn to these incumbents to help write the rules, and they're going to solidify their own position by writing rules that are favorable to themselves and erecting barriers to prevent new entrants from coming in. Right? Regulation always favors incumbents because the agencies that are there is this phenomenon called regulatory capture, where Do
you fear that we're likely to see regulatory capture specifically when it comes to AI? Because in fact, there was an interesting piece out saying, look, keep the tech CEOs away from regulation, and this notion or narrative that is being generated or created is that governments don't understand AI, don't understand the technology, and so it's best to leave the regulation with the experts, i.e. the tech companies themselves.
Yeah, no, I worry about that, and I think the reason for that is exactly this. You don't want the incumbents writing the rules because then the rules are going to favor the incumbents. Now, I think the incumbents already have a lot of natural advantages in this space. You don't want to erect further barriers to prevent startups from entering the space and playing in the space. So my personal belief is that the government should regulate new technologies like AI with a very light hand. Maybe put very general limits like don't access weapon systems, things of this nature, right? But let it evolve, right, and let it play out. And for a country like India as well, I think it'll be in India's interest, for example, if there is less regulation around AI in the US. Or anywhere in the world, right? Because regulation regulation of AI will lead to exports bans and things of this nature, which you don't want at this stage for a country like India to take advantage of this technology.
Anand, so let me end then by asking you, the thing that excites you most about India as well as the US and this US-India startup corridor that has, of course, now been in operation for a few years now, and this partnership that hopefully will deepen, especially in emerging and critical technologies on the back of both governments coming together. What excites you the most?
What excites me the most is India's deep entrepreneurial ecosystem. I'm seeing these amazing entrepreneurs in India. When I visit India, I talk to the entrepreneurs. It's great to see their ambition. It's great to see the depth of talent and how that has changed over the last 10 years. The US India partnership is amazing for that because we have a great Indian diaspora here in Silicon Valley and all over the US who are ready to invest in India and who are ready to help take Indian companies who develop very interesting technologies and help them market those technologies in the US as well. Because while India is a great place to develop, sometimes the bigger markets up sometimes in the US.
How many of your portfolio companies have made that leap from servicing India to now servicing the global markets? How many are on the cusp of being able to do that?
No, it's actually a very difficult transition to make. A couple of our companies have made that transition. For example, this company that I told you that is in the AI meat food space, they started in India, in Bombay, and now they moved to the US, right? So I think that transition has to happen as well to address larger market opportunities. So I think there are big market opportunities within India that you can address by just being in India, right? Things in e-commerce, for example, or in agriculture. There are many interesting opportunities where you can, or supply chain, where you can be in India and build a big company. But if you're building a company that is selling to enterprises, then the bigger opportunities are in the US.
Well, Anand, it's always a pleasure. Thanks very much for joining us here once again on Young Turks. We wish you very best of luck with Rocketship and, of course, with the San Francisco Unicorns. And we look forward to being able to speak with you again soon.
Thank you, Shereen. Thanks for the opportunity.
Well, that's it then on this special edition of Young Turks. From all of us here on the team, we will continue to bring you more stories from Silicon Valley. Till then, goodbye and thanks for watching.